Retro Future.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dankard Lexicon, your guide to the world of distaste and hackneyed ideas. And today we're gonna talk about a topic which is long overdue. Cliches in steampunk. Those who are familiar with steampunk probably recognize these statements. What are steampunks but Gus and Brown? Glue some gears on it and call it steampunk. Isn't steampunk a colonial revival movement? We're not gonna open that can of worms today. Most people probably learn about steampunk through gaming, where its visual design is more diverse. But for those who are familiar with convention and costume culture, a different image emerges. That's of brown-clad neo-Victorians. It is this image of the steampunk that is considered a cliché. But what are these cliches of steampunk? For that, we question some volunteers.
Okay, subject. Name 5 steampunk cliches.
Unicorns.
Again.
Cops. Goggles. Airships.
Again.
Hi-hats. Oh.
No, that wasn't helpful at all. Call them oversimplified criticisms of the genre, but no one can deny there's a truth to these. But what are these cliches, and does the steampunk community need to get rid of these? According to the Merriam-Webster, a cliché is 1. A trite phrase or expression, also the idea expressed by it. 2. A hackneyed theme, characterization or situation. And 3. Something that has become overly familiar or commonplace. For our purposes, we will focus on issues regarding point number 3, because we are talking about aesthetics most of all, and how these are used in, well, whatever.
Excuse me?
Oh great, they let the bloody elderly out of their cages again. Who the hell are you?
Montague Jaques Fromage here, and I've got a couple of things that I would like to say about you and your bloody cliches.
Well, somebody needs to say something about all these overused decorations.
Oh. They most certainly are not good, sir. They are a visual representation of the genre. If you saw 100 naked people standing out in the field, and they were all wearing top hats and goggles, would you think them to be scuba divers?
I might think a lot of things. Have you seen the shite people wear in this existence? But I'm sure you wouldn't know anything about that.
Of course, the police wouldn't care terribly either way. 100 naked people would really make a statement.
I present to you, dear viewer, that these visual elements are not so much cliches as these are tropes of the movement. A trope is a well-known piece or component that together form a greater whole. Steampunk without top hats, gears and goggles is unthinkable at this point in time, whether we like it or not. It doesn't mean you can't do steampunk without it, but people do have certain expectations. One time our group Ragtag responded to a costume call for a post-apocalyptic video for which we thought ourselves suitable. However, the first response was that they didn't need neo-Victorians with top hats. After explaining that's not the type of steampunk that we do, we were taken on board. But it did bother me that this was the expectation people have by default when you call yourself steampunk. So, be it tropes or cliches, this is what people expect steampunk will look like. I don't think it's far-fetched to say many steampunk would agree, but that is not the point we want to make in this video. No single gear or copper plate can be called steampunk. They are most definitely included in the aesthetical toolbox of steampunks. A matter of fact, gears are essential components in many machines that steampunks love to create. And it is those machines that become the symbol of progress and technology, not just to steampunks, but popular culture itself. So yes, gears do belong in steampunk. However, a distinction must be made between practical, symbolic, and decorative use. And it was the overuse of gears as decorations that inspired the song.
Just glue some gears on it and call it steampunk.
So it's interesting that the subculture made the gear a trope of the genre, and part of their heraldry, so to speak. But why? Do they like the shape of it, or does it have an important symbolical meaning? Regardless, it's a trope. Glue a gear on it, and people will associate it with steampunk. Now, the goth and brown stereotype was and is a thing. It has been so prevalent that active measures have been taken by some members of the community to explain that the brown color isn't a must if you want to be steampunk. Well, here's a cliche. Avoid cliches! We in the past advocated against excessive use of cogs ourselves. I'm still no fan of using cogs merely as decoration, but even the staunchest opponents of its decorative use have to admit that it lowers the bar for people that are just starting out. No matter how hard we push against it, tropes such as these remain important to the identity of steampunk as a whole. But why are cogs and clockwork reviled as cliches? Because it goes against the notion as the creator as an original wunderkind. Especially in alternative circles, we have this idea that everything should be unique and original. However, it is based on a very shallow understanding of what originality means. Steampunk is not an original movement. It takes inspiration from early science fiction and contemporary pop culture. It is riddled with reinterpretations, homages, and pop references to the good, the bad, and the cliched.
Not exactly so, sir. We most certainly do reinterpret the past. That's all part of the fun and the pleasure of the whole thing. But, more importantly, we are paying an homage to the authors and the people of the period. H.G. Wells, Jules Verne, and the lot of them. Tesla.
Why does everyone always need to emphasize how awesome Tesla is?
Most importantly, we do reinterpret and we do offer homages. But within that context, we are totally individualistic. So there.
So, why do cliches exist? Is it because they work? Because they are popular? Or because they are familiar? When we grow up as children, we imitate the behavior of grown-ups. It's no different for aspiring makers and artists to copy other people's creation as they develop their own styles and tastes. And some cultures enjoy just that. More of the same. But it doesn't mean they don't notice or appreciate the differences in style between the various artists. Steampunk is very much the same, even though there are no straight imitations. Everybody for steampunk getup might conform to the goth and brown stereotype. Of course, there are some exceptions. Steampunks are not cosplayers in the sense they want to imitate known pop culture icons. In the end, they want to personalize their daily attire, like their smartphones, which is another well-known steampunk trope. Futurist Brian David Johnson described his behavior as steampunks desiring a different type of relationship with technology. Or as I like to explain it, steampunks want such devices to tell something about themselves rather than making it look like they're conforming to design by committee.
I think what you're trying to say is that we personalize the genre to ourselves, and you are 100% correct. Most definitely, you will never ever find two steampunks dressed identically the same. Unless, of course, they're twins, then there's the possibility.
Most steampunks are geeks that like to express their fandom for science fiction, pop culture, and history. They punk existing concepts to their own tastes. It's why steampunks take familiar pop culture icons and twist them into alternate versions of these. Even though the subject is obvious, no one can really deny their originality. You see, cliches are only bad when they draw you out of the experience. It doesn't matter that these contraptions don't actually work, as long as you're willing to suspend your disbelief that these are actually genuine inventions. If I would have to name a cliche that draws me out of the experience, it's the use of wine caskets as backpacks or coffers. However, certain people, like critics and makers who spend a lot of time within the steampunk community, will notice certain trends more than other people. For example, they might notice the use of certain household items within people's creations, which may draw them out of the experience, while the more novice people, so to speak, enjoy them nevertheless.
And on that I do have to agree with you, sir. You and I have been to so many different festivals and conventions, or whatever you want to call them, that we most certainly do see similar trends between the two. But the important part is that the people that are attending the local festival are doing it perhaps for the first time, and they don't see what we see. The bottom line, in my mind, is that it is all enjoyable for everyone. And I do enjoy people who enjoy themselves.
So, what to do if you discover one of these cliches within your attire? First off, identifying the problem is the essential step in improving your work. Second, know that many steampunk creations are never really done. A lot of people reuse old unused props for new projects or keep improving them. Also, you need to give yourself time to develop your costume. What is practical? What is the story you want to tell? These are far more important than worrying about something is overdone or not. But if you're one of these people that insist that steampunk needs to adhere to some type of aesthetic ideal, I don't know what to tell you. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I bid you adieu. And as always, make things your way. I want to thank Monty for participating in this video. You can find his stuff on steampunkfunkbizarre.com if you're interested in his music. He's been supporting my channel from the very beginning. And also the intro, yes, that one is also voiced by him. So if you've been a long-time viewer of my channel, you've been listening to him probably without knowing it. I also want to thank Captain Glenwell, whose video on steampunk cliches inspired my video. I'll put a link to his channel down in the comments. If you want to support my work, I have a Patreon, and you can also connect with me on Discord. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy this content, and of course, share it with your friends.
I think what you're trying to say is that we totally blew it. Let it keep going.